Welcome to the Fright Zone.
This question is for Judith O'Dea. Ever since you've been going to horror conventions, how many people have come up to you and said, "They're coming to get you, Barbara"?
Lots. You know what they've said to me? They'll say, before they say that, they say, "Aren't you sick and tired of hearing me?" They'll say that. My answer to that, absolutely not. I don't think I will
ever. How many, I mean, just think about it. How many iconic lines of dialogue are in this film? And you can quote just about any of it. I mean, there's that one. Then at the very first line, well, they ought to make the day the time changes, the first day of summer. I mean, just all of it.
There's another one for the fire.
You know, more people go up to Russ Striner and say the line, and he charges 25 cents every time.
Do you remember the big, heavy guy who was sort of bald and he had just a pair of shorts on? And he had shot. When he falls down, he literally bounces. Every time I see that,
people would come out and do the damnedest things, you know, just to be an extra in these films. And this is before it was fashionable to be a zombie in a George Romero film. The guy in Dawn of the Dead, the same thing, the heavy guy who just takes a header right to the fountain. And every time you see that, it's like, ooh, you know, this guy, he was a shop owner or something, who just was eager to be in his underwear and take a header.
Did you know what it was when you showed up?
No. We all had our day jobs, and we'd film, and then we'd run out of money, and then they'd go out and round up some more capital, some new investors. You know, we'd shoot again, they'd bring in Judy, and they'd bring in Dwayne. They bring in the folks who aren't local, they bring them in for, you know, we do a really concentrated amount of time. You know, they try to, you know, maybe three weeks or so. But then when we all had, you know, we were very grounded because we would go back to our day job. You know, I was answering phones at Lady Image.
I was singing in musicals.
I was in 4th grade.
Were you born, Jim?
You know, people ask at conventions, that's, you know, they go right down the line, and I'm standing with these folks, and they're like, "And then what did you do?" Well, I was one. You know, I mean, you know, what do you expect that I did?
Or it had all that impact.
Well, how about when did you start to realize that this movie just keeps cropping up? I mean, it seems like it was something like originally made as a stepping stone. Okay, we're going to do this first film, and then George and company wanted to go further. But what happened when, and you know, back then they expected goes in distribution and it makes some money, and then you go on to the next film. But when did you start to realize that this film had something else was going on? It keeps popping up.
I don't know, it was probably the late 70s for me. I didn't really pay attention. And, you know, when they made Dawn of the Dead, I didn't know about it. And it was like in my backyard practically, and I just kind of wasn't really paying attention. So, you know, I didn't really realize that Night of the Living Dead had a second leg until probably the late 70s.
I think it was much later for me. I was out in Hollywood, out here in California. Most everybody else was back east. They began doing the horror conventions. I wasn't invited. I didn't go. I didn't know about them. So I think it happened for me more in the 80s or so. I was invited. I think the first was the Zombie Jamboree back in Pittsburgh. I went to that. When I saw Kyra Hardman selling jars of, what was that?
Night of the Living Dead barbecue sauce.
I knew something was going on with this film.
I still have a jar.
What's the shelf life on a jar of Night of the Living Dead?
Oh, what it's made of, it'll last forever.
Just wondering if you have any mementos or souvenirs from production.
Kyra does.
No, not anymore. I sold
not
them.
anymore?
Yeah, I sold, well, I have a music box. That's all I have left. I sold some stuff last year because my dog is sort of chubby. Anyway, but I still have a music box. And it's broken. It broke right after. Oh,
She has the music box that made the tune. The music box that
Yeah.
you see has a completely different. In fact, I believe that music box, they recorded both of them, and that music box ended up in Martin. It's the ice cream truck. That's what it sounds like. So it doesn't fit Night of the Living Dead at all. They looked for something a little more, a little more somber.
That, by the way, is one of my favorite scenes. When George is down on the ground filming up, when those little doors open, for that fraction of a second, you see Barbara's eyes, and then the little doors close.
Yeah.
What an artistic shot.
Well, I just love that in Night of the Living Dead they take their time. You know, how many times do you hear people say, well, this movie's boring? Well, you know, it takes its time. So then, you know, when Kyra's scene comes up, it's the right time. You know, it just really, now all hell is breaking loose, and it's the payoff. And then when you don't think it could get any worse, you know, now this guy just shot this guy, and he's stumbling down the stairs. It gets a lot worse, and that's why it's a great horror film, and because it takes its time to build it up. If they did all this stuff in the beginning, it would have had
And
no
yet
impact.
there is not extraneous footage in that film. It moves. It just goes from one scene to the next scene to the next, and it builds, builds, builds. I don't think you say, oh, well, here's 10 minutes, we can relax for a while. No, it didn't happen that way, and that still impresses me.
Well, look at the scene when just Dwayne's by himself, and this music's playing, and this, you know, boom, 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 and he's just going through the closet, and he's smoking, and he's thinking, you can see him thinking about, well, what am I going to do? I mean, he's so, you know, every aspect of the film is like that, and it should, you know, it carries the audience along, or at least
But
it
it
should.
makes sense, yes.
Right, it makes a lot of
Carries
sense,
along.
exactly.
My first experience with the film, I was 13 years old, 76, and I came across the paperback in a supermarket that scared the hell out of me just reading the back of it. And I remember reading some article or other where some psychologists were absolutely convinced, Kyra, that you simply must have been psychologically damaged by your participation in this film.
We are not referring to that.
Do you ever have any moments where you just had to tell somebody, no, I swear I'm okay?
I let them wonder. It's always better when people think you're crazy.
One of the wonderful things as an actress I found about George, he didn't tell you how to do a scene. He wasn't specific saying, this is how I want you to do it, this is the tone I want. What he would do is say, this is what I'm trying to achieve in this 30 seconds worth of film. You'll come in here, and I'd like you to end up over there. This is what we're trying to achieve. And then he'd let you do it. There was great, great freedom as a performer.
Was there like rehearsals, like, you know, well, George was the cameraman as well as the director, so was there any kind of like run through where he would figure out where he was going to shoot from, or did he already know that and still have you rehearse? What was that process like?
You want to?
I don't recall storyboards or anything like that. I think he had it all worked out in his head.
We didn't have much rehearsal at all. I think if it was a physical thing, where you really had to end up here, and to get there, there were certain steps. If it was that intricate, we might do a little run through. But basically, it was more, this is what I'd like to achieve, and you go for it.
What we found interviewing the people who were the ghouls, who had never, you know, at that point, what is a flesh-eating zombie or a ghoul? Nobody knew it. Nobody had anything to draw from. It seems George's direction, just along what they said, along the lines of what they said, was not what to do, but this is what you're thinking. You're constantly moving. It's hard to walk, but you're constantly moving, and you're looking over there, or maybe there's somebody over there. You're always attentive to. You're looking to see who you're going to go after, and that seemed to be his only overall direction. Not walk like this or do anything specific, but he wanted that determination of the zombies or the living dead. That was his direction.
In fact, isn't it true, Jim, that Bill Heinzman, we call him zombie number one, was given total freedom to create the zombie walk?
Well, Bill Heinzman's case is really interesting because he's actually in the middle of the film is what was filmed first, and Bill was actually working behind the scenes, and that's why he was there. And they needed somebody to fill out the zombie horde, so he brought a suit and they stuck him in there. So his first thing was just kind of like standing there like a mannequin, and or like his head tilted up. And the opening scene was filmed last. His big scene that he's remembered for was filmed last. So there's this amazing kind of continuity that it actually worked out. And he was kind of thrown all these, okay, well now you have to attack these people, and now you're going to, the other guy's going to come and grab you, and now you have to kill him. And he's saying, well, wait a minute, how do I kill this guy? In the whole movie, we've just been stumbling around. You've been saying, well, we have no power. Now all of a sudden I got to kill this guy. Okay, well, just do it. George said something a little more colorful than that, but just do it, right? So he kills the brother protecting Barbara, and then she's off and running, and it's okay, now you have to run after her. Wait a minute, we've just been stumbling around the movie, now I gotta run too. So he had to do all these marks and actually make a performance out of it, which is, remarkable. And if you watch the film, he actually comes through at the end. So the first zombie is one of the last ones you see, and he's the last one that's on the bonfire with the hero. So it's the continuity is unbelievable that it actually worked out like that, considering that it wasn't planned that way. The opening scenes were filmed last. Pretty amazing.
I think a memorable one for me was a behind-the-scenes one. We were shooting 16, right? 16 millimeters. Will we shoot a 35? But we had a limited amount of stock, so you didn't want to waste that. You had to load the reels with this stock. Well, you needed help to do that. And George sat down with me, taught me how to use the film bag. Put that stock in the film bag, and you put it through and into the cartridges. And if you messed up, you could mess up the stock. It was just a wonderful challenge for me to be able to do that as an actress, helping behind the scenes. I'm proud to say I don't think we lost any stock.
Well, because I was a kid, everything was kind of memorable. I think they were kind of general impressions. Seeing zombies, ghouls standing around smoking cigarettes and eating hot dogs. It was like, wow, this is really surreal. It was just, that's kind of when I think about this film, that's what I think about. I just see people taking a break, eating lunch or eating dinner outside, standing around, barbecues, and just, in these weird, like, the weird makeup and stuff, and, you know, raggedy clothes, and just doing regular people stuff. And it's really cool. It was fun.
Is it time for martini now? So,
Any more? Or are we just about wrapped up?
That's about it, probably.
Okay, well, let's
Thank you, ladies. Will you ladies be here all weekend?
We'll be here all weekend.
Ladies, be all weekend, right outside the door, so you can come visit them. Thank you, Jim, producer of Autopsy of the Dead, Jim Sernello. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Perry.
Have a great night.